When I think about the Olympics and I think about the games and I think about the championship aspect of it, the competition, the world renowned attention you get, everything that goes along with being an Olympian, a competitor, whether it's the Summer or Winter Olympics, I think that'd be pretty cool, right? Now, nothing about me ever would get me in there, 100%. Nothing about me would ever get me into the Olympics. But maybe if I got really good at video games, I could get there eventually. And as the eSports world is growing, and in some instances actually eclipsing the popularity of some of these events, that's been a question on people's minds. Will gaming and eSports ever make its way into the Olympics? Well, apparently, no. According to this article here, it says eSports will not be allowed in the Olympics if the games contain killing. Well, that takes out like 98% of games. Like, is there going to be an Olympic event for like Animal Crossing? Gotta get those crops. Gotta avoid Rossetti. Pay off your house. It says here, while market analysts in certain companies like Riot Games and Blizzard Entertainment have been heavily pushing for esports, the reality is that esports joining a mainstream sporting event like the Olympics is the long shot for now. According to the IOC president, you won't see any esports games make an appearance if the game contains killing. Sankaku Complex picked up the news from an interview that the International Olympic Committee president Thomas Bach had with the AP, saying here that we cannot have in the Olympics a program a game in which is promoting violence or discrimination. So-called killer games, they, from our point of view, are contradictory with the Olympic values and that cannot therefore be accepted. Now, I understand that argument. I do. I understand the argument entirely. You're pushing this thing out there. You don't want it. You don't want people crowded around a screen watching people get beheaded, get destroyed, just shot up, blown up, eviscerated, annihilated, incinerated, all those things. You don't want that. I get that. But at the same time, the popularity of those games, the popularity of esports, is it going to be so much that they cannot be ignored anymore? And I think, yes, one day it will. Now, the article goes on to say, of course, everyone made common sense observations that the Olympics does feature a lot of sports themed around violence, such as fencing, boxing, and taekwondo. Bach, however, had an answer for this query, stating that the sports are about competitive sportsmanship and not killing, saying, of course, every combat sport has its origins in a real fight among people, but sport is civilized expression about this. If you have e-games where it's about killing somebody, this cannot be brought into line with our Olympic values. Okay. So then to counter that, then if boxing and fencing and taekwondo were originated in the ideas of hurting somebody else, then video games, because you're not actually killing anyone, you're not actually physically harming anyone, unless you use naughty words according to people at Polygon, then what's the point? Then it doesn't do anything. It doesn't mean shit, because it actually kind of defeats his own argument. Because this is a virtual thing. This isn't real. No one's being hurt. Its origins were never based around actual real life pain, suffering, and violence. Its origins were around a pastime, and that became the most predominant sport, esport, entertainment, whatever, on the planet. Now it says here, this means you won't be seeing Overwatch in the Olympics. This obviously would be a huge blow to Blizzard, given that it limits their reach and using the SJW agenda. Jesus. Okay, whatever. It also means that games like Counter-Strike, Dota 2, and League of Legends are also forfeit from appearing in the Olympics. However, this doesn't discount games with KOs from appearing, such as fighting games. While Mortal Kombat obviously won't be appearing at the Olympics, it is possible for games like Tekken 7 or Street Fighter 5 to potentially make an appearance. But then again, would we ever see a wild card appear like Dragon Ball FighterZ? How wild would that be? And I agree, that'd be pretty wild. I mean, if they took Evo and they moved it over to an Olympic type, they were able to get that in the Olympics, we would then see games designed around cartoonish fighting and non-death as a way to get around this. So if it became popular enough. Now it says your previous efforts to make fighting games more esports friendly haven't gone over too well. though it did result in Street Fighter V being censored and for ESPN to put restrictions on which character outfits could be used during the live broadcast of the top 8 finals at EVO. That's not to mention that all of the censorship and fan service removal in Dead or Alive 6 thoroughly put off a lot of diehard fans. So maybe esports not joining the Olympics is for the best, at least as far as retaining gaming culture is concerned. But let's be honest about this. If it goes to the Olympics, the gaming culture aspect of it is fucking gone. Right? It is. It's gone. If it gets to that point, it's already gone. You know, no one's going to go and play this to represent gamer culture at the Olympics. You know, it's just not, I don't think it's going to happen. Not to say that there's not a point to be made with retaining gaming culture. I completely think there should be. And I'm not for like the amount of shit that comes out of like lefty games journalism trying to make everything problematic and everything a problem. And everything is terrible, misogynistic, and sexist. I think they need to let art speak for itself 100%. And so as a result of that, I don't know. When it comes to the Olympics and what the Olympics represents and how much money is at play, I just don't see that happening. But gamer cultures is if it ever makes it that far, won't be hindered by restricting certain types of outfits to be played. Right? It won't be hindered. Because if it doesn't change the aesthetic of the character or the value of the character, then it's just cosmetic and it's really pointless to use that as an argument, I think. Because it's sitting there and trying to argue that an alternative costume for, let's say, Chun-Li with some cleavage hanging out is a slight on gamer culture if it were to make it into the Olympics is just, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just hyperbolic argumentation for the sake of hyperbolic argumentation. But that being said, with the Summer Olympics happening again when in 2022, I think, maybe, just maybe we'll see something. Because by that point in time, the shift will clearly be there. The shift for popularity in gaming and popularity in these sports, in the esports, I should say, will be really reaching its rise. It's already there. It has to be recognized. And eventually the push for it to be there will happen.